Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1930. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in Surrey in the UK, across the pond, as we say, with a very special guest by the name of Justin Lunny. Justin, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have it in gear? And are you ready to release the clutch?
I am indeed, Mark. Lovely to meet you. Lovely to be here.
Well, this is going to be fun. What you're doing is very cool. May bring some questions from some of my listeners, but I think we're going to answer all of them. Before I give you a proper introduction, what's one little thing that maybe most people don't know about you, Justin?
Would you believe I used to be a swimmer? I used to swim for my hometown, my county. I haven't done it for many, many years, but it's the sort of thing that I think if you do as a kid, you enjoy it, and it's a great thing to be doing in older life as well. So yeah, it's probably one thing most people don't know about me.
Swimming is awesome. What a great exercise. Easy on your body. I grew up in Southern California. I was a surfer. I was in the ocean every day pretty much. Got really good at swimming and loved it. And it's something I kind of miss living up here, because if you jump in the water up here in the Pacific Northwest, you have about 10 minutes before you freeze and sink. So yeah, it's a little bit chilly up here, but swimming is pretty cool. Well, let me give you a proper introduction, and we're going to dive into what you're doing. Justin Lunny is the founder and CEO of Everatti, where they passionately redefine the most iconic cars and make them relevant to the world today. Each vehicle's past is preserved by meticulous concourse standard restorations while simultaneously receiving a zero-emissions, full electric powertrain that delivers much improved levels of performance, refinement, and sustainability. Justin is an experienced and successful entrepreneur who, prior to Everatti, founded and sold fintech in the financial technology space. Today, he and his team seek to build a business that combines their passion for technology and cars with a concern for the environment and the future of our planet. We'll be back in just a moment to learn more, but first a word from our sponsors. So give them a little love, give them a listen. Hold on. We're at Everatti today, having fun. We'll be right back. My friends at Covercraft offer you 10 different options. That's right, 10 for your vehicle's protection. You can choose from Weather Shield HP, HD, Sunbrella, Ultratect, Reflect, Form Fit, Custom View Shield, and their newest 5-layer all-climate cover, 3-layer moderate climate cover, and a 5-layer indoor option. You have all sorts of ways to protect your car. All of these are custom tailored by Covercraft's talented craftspeople. It's the form and fit with the quality to attention to detail that's been their standard since 1965. Surface protection is the best way to preserve the investment you've made in your vehicles. It's what I do. Covercraft protects cars, trucks, motorcycles, RVs, trailers, and watercraft too. I have a Covercraft cover for every one of my vehicles, and I've got a deal for you. If you use the code YEAH21, YEAH21 at covercraft.com, they'll give you 10% off your order, plus you get free shipping. That's right, 10% off and free shipping. Just use the code YEAH21 at checkout. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. I was talking with a buddy of mine the other day, and he asked me about American Collectors Insurance. He said, "While I listen to you on Cars Yeah, you're always talking about agreed value collector car insurance. Well, I insure all my cars on my regular auto insurance policy, and I've done it for years. Why use a different company for my collector cars? I get a multi-car discount. Isn't that good enough?" I suggested he call his carrier and ask how much he would get if his collector car was totaled or stolen. He called back and said, "Boy, that was a scary conversation. The value of my car wasn't even close to what it's really worth." Thank you for the education, Mark. So don't just hope for a fair claim settlement. Be certain and know exactly what you'll receive with an agreed value policy. American Collectors Insurance has been protecting enthusiasts since 1976. Give them a call today for your personal agreed value quote at 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. Tell them you're a friend of Mark Green's at Cars Yeah. American Collectors Insurance, classic car insurance, designed by collectors for collectors, automotive enthusiasts just like you and me. They're the ones that insure my car. That's American Collectors Insurance. So, Justin, we're back. So, as we begin this journey, I understand a piece of the inspiration for Everatti began with a prince and a bride leaving Windsor Castle. Windsor being your hometown for 15 years, in an electric Jaguar E-Type. What a nice way to start this journey. So get the inspirational tires turning, Justin, and take the wheel.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. So I was a resident of Windsor, right in front of Windsor Castle. In fact, where I lived was we were able to see into the grounds, which is absolutely amazing.
Wow!
And this one day when the Prince and Meghan got married, they went away from the castle, as people may know, in an electric E-Type. And for me, that was a great inspiration, seeing such an iconic car for the future, because back then, 2018. Really, the only options in EV were Tesla and maybe some of the hybrid cars that were around at the time. And I just thought the ability to have such an iconic, cool vehicle on the road in zero emission zones was going to be the future, frankly.
The excitement about that car for me was I was at the Quail, a motor car event, and they had that vehicle, maybe not the exact same one, or it might have been, I'm not sure, but they had a Jaguar that was powered by electric, and I was standing there. I got in early as part of a press kind of thing, and it was very interesting for me to just, who doesn't love the E-Type, right? I mean, it's one of the most beautiful cars in the world. It's the car that started it for me, by the way. My father bought me my first Matchbox when I was about 4 or 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
And it was a little red Jaguar E-Type. It's sitting around here somewhere. I still have it. And listening to people talk about this car and the different variety of opinions at that time, and maybe even now, of taking a classic car and converting it to electric can be polarizing for some people. But I think for most people, it's rather exciting. At least it is for me, because it creates another opportunity in a variety of ways. So let's dig a little deeper into the thought process behind Everatti. And I've got to ask you this question. Where did the name come from?
Yeah, the name was an interesting one. So in this day and age, finding a name is actually quite challenging, as you may know, and especially a domain name that goes with it. But the background to the name is, I guess, a combination of various different themes, really. So Ever is the first part of the word, clearly trying to maintain and enable these beautiful, beautiful, iconic cars to be driven forever. EV happens to be in there as well, although bizarrely, we see EV as an evolutionary step. It may be hydrogen longer term, and we're very open-minded to that as well. Mm-hmm. And then Rati happens to be the Hindu goddess of love, passion, and carnal desire. And of course, a lot of your listeners, a lot of people who love cars probably feel a lot similar about their cars, and therefore we believe that's got a relevance to it as well. So that's the background to the name.
I love it. I picked some of that out of there, but as soon as you said Everatti, I went, okay, I think some of my history, I think I know where he's going with this. So let's talk about the vehicles that you're focused on right now. I know the Porsche 911 964 body configuration, which is being used by a lot of people like Rob Dickinson for Singer, the RSR Project folks over here, all people I've had on the show. And of course, Superformance, my good friend Lance Stander has been a guest here several times. I've driven his GT40. Oh my goodness, what a fun thing those guys are doing. Land Rover, you're picking all the cars that we people love, and the Mercedes Pagoda style. So let's talk about your reasoning for picking these vehicles, and then kind of take us into a journey of how you go about the process of not only restoring, but changing the power plants to something that you can plug in and go.
Yeah.
Or unplug and go is what I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, so I think the first ones on that list that you've talked about clearly is the Porsche. So the 964 is such an iconic shape, as you've already identified. It's something that clearly has been personified by Singer, and the beautiful curves, and just an iconic shape, and the way it drives is really, really important. And for us, that's the key. We're trying to make sure that we don't ruin these cars in any way. They're taken all the way back to the chassis, and they're treated like with kid gloves, essentially, as like a nut and bolt restoration would be. We also don't cut the chassis in any way, and we always try to keep both the weight and the weight distribution as close to the original car as we possibly can. And that's so important on these performance cars. Less so maybe on a Land Rover, or maybe, dare I say, a Pagoda, but on a Porsche, it is so important that it still drives the way it should. So the way we go about this is we take a model, and let's say the 964, We weigh that car at all four corners, so 4 corner weights. So we know exactly our target weight. We then take out the oily bits, the bits that combustion engine in terms of gearbox and drivetrain. We then weigh it again, and we also then 3D scan the space that we have left. So we know exactly the space that the engine, the gearbox, and the fuel tank would have taken. Mm-hmm. We then CAD design a brand new drivetrain for that vehicle. So we have all the CAD scans. We put them within the technology that we have, and we can then look at where the motor should be, where the battery should be, and as importantly, where the weight should be. So we go through all of that process. We then build up the car, given the technology we have available, and we start to test that. So we've had these Porsches now in testing for well over a year. So the one that you've probably seen on the road and some of the videos that we have is really now close to production. It's just a last pre-production car, and that will be going into production very, very shortly. That car you see in the images that we've no doubt seen on our website or on our PR, that car is actually lighter than the original car, about 40-50 kilos lighter, and almost identical weight distribution. And that's really what we are aiming for, which is a car that still feels like a Porsche. And we've also added some other bits. People have commented, why does it have exhaust pipes, for example? And we have within that vehicle synthetic sound. And I say synthetic, it's the same technology as new manufacturers use when they put a sport button on the car. It's just pumped through, and we have the same technology, and that car actually feels like it's a combustion engine. You can actually feel the vibration through the car. So that's the kind of length we go to on that particular car.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I love it. Well, you always hear of us car fanatics talking about the exhaust being a symphony of sound. So there you go. You're taking it to that place. Let's jump into the Superformance, because what Lance is doing at that company, what they've done forever, and you take the iconic GT40, what a nice starting point that is. I mean, it's already basically a high-performance race car, if you will, for the streets. Right. But you're doing something that I think even makes it faster, right? At least acceleration.
Yeah, that's right. And I think quite a lot of people ask about why we do the GT40. You may know that the GT40 was originally designed in the UK, and it was actually designed about, and I'm going to get this probably wrong, but about 5 miles from Windsor.
Really?
Yeah. So a place called
back
Slough.
Home to you again.
Yeah. So not it's a place called Slough, and it was within the Lola factory in the Lola background. So for me, again, a really, really important car for us as a business, because I think it has a load of Anglo-American history to it. It also so happens that my 7-year-old son's favorite movie is Ford versus Ferrari, so that kind of helped my decision. But yeah, if you look at the GT40, it's such an iconic car with all the Le Mans wins, with all of the heritage that go with that. And indeed, with that car and with that relationship, it's so important to us, again, that we try and keep it as original looking as possible. The weight distribution on our vehicle will be very, very similar to the original vehicle. But yeah, in terms of performance, it's pretty much out there. Our peak is going to be around 800 horsepower. Our peak torque is around 800 Newton meters of torque. And it is going to be quite a monster. And really what we're doing with that vehicle, I guess, is allowing people that love the shape, love the thought of a GT40 to drive it in a subtly different way, which is, if you want the sound on, yes, we can create the sound in the same way as we do in our Porsche, albeit nowhere near as loud as the original, probably for good reason. You don't want bleeding ears, but also something that can be driven in clean air zones, in environments where noise is a problem. If you look at a lot of racetracks, certainly in the UK, in terms of Goodwood and a variety of others, noise pollution is a real issue, and you have track days where you just cannot go over a certain decibel. Of course, with the GT40, we could use that in a track environment, and all you'd hear is the tires squealing. So pretty cool, really.
Oh, yeah, it's very cool. And around here in the Pacific Northwest, they've been cracking down. I know other cities on loud exhausts. They'll actually fine you if you have a modified exhaust. Now, how they determine that has always been up in the air. But you're right. And my daughter lives in an area where there's been a problem with that. And she goes, yeah, it's hard to sleep at night. These kids come out and, make a lot of noise. It's kind of irritating. So plus she's got a new baby. So that wakes everybody up, which isn't much fun. And then we jump to a very different vehicle, but an iconic, beloved vehicle, the Land Rover, Series 2A. I mean, it's one of those cars that everybody smiles when they look at.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think, again, as it happens, my family, so my father, but my grandfathers were all in the army at some description over a period of time. And that vehicle has gone from very agricultural, but also used in the military in around the world. Frankly, it's a beautiful, iconic car, and increasingly, it's a car that people, as you rightly say, they smile, they love it. It's not the most dynamic, let's be perfectly honest, but it's a stunning thing to see. And I just remember as a kid actually seeing guys and girls jump out of the back of a Land Rover, maybe at a local pub, and there'd be a guy next to him in a Ferrari, the Porsche, something else, and everybody was looking at this Land Rover because it was just cool. So that's kind of one of the reasons we've done that. With that vehicle, that's all about being something that people can drive, whether it's in a city or down to the beach or on their, dare I say, private estate, without noise and without pollution. And the original was not the most straightforward to drive if you've ever driven one. It's very low on power. The gear selection is not straightforward. And we just take a little bit of that out. So it's single speed. We still retain the transfer box. So it can be 2 or 4-wheel drive if you wish. We've made sure it's not too fast, and that might sound a weird thing to say on a car show, but the last thing you want is that to be dangerous. So we've, the 0 to 60 is much quicker than the original, but not performance car standards. But it's a cool thing. It's going to be really, really fun to drive and be seen in, frankly.
Oh, it's beautiful. And then as far as today, the last one we're going to talk about here is the Pagoda, the Mercedes SLW113, which is just a iconic, beautiful, lovely little car. But when you drive them, unless it's a manual, kind of gutless, kind of lets you down a little bit, because you think Mercedes and coming off of the 300 SL era and then the 190s and then this car. So you're going to make this car fun.
We're going to make it fun, and we're going to make it, I guess, a combination of things, really. So yes, the performance, the power is there. Again, we're not looking to make it too fast because by definition, it's a 60s vehicle. But I think just having that power available, the roof down, cruising along the highway or down by the coast, I think it's just a beautiful, evocative shape. The number of movie stars that were seen back in the day in these vehicles. And of course, what we do now is take them and we fully restore them so they look absolutely perfect, tied with a beautiful, fully re-engineered drivetrain. And I think it's just the perfect combination and the future for these vehicles, personally.
Oh, it's lovely. So the way you do this, do people bring you the original car, or do you source the car, or are both options available? And I assume each of these is going to be bespoke?
Yeah, so both options are available. We offer the sourcing service that people can bring them to us if they so wish. But we also make sure that car is theirs before we do any work onto it. So they've got to be comfortable with the base car and what it stands for. And we clearly help them make sure that is a straight car and it's a good base for what we need to do. The process, I guess, that we go through, we've talked about the weighing, the weight distribution. I guess the key thing for us as well is that, and the reason I think we're slightly different from some of our peers in the industry is, most of my guys are either ex-McLaren, they've worked at Lotus, they've worked at JLR, they've worked at Mercedes-Benz. And they've worked on brand new cars that either have a hybrid drivetrain or an EV drivetrain. So they probably are the best in the business, frankly, at engineering new EV drivetrains for some of these beautiful, beautiful cars. So I think that's probably what sets us apart and why people are coming to us for this high-end redefinition. We call it a redefinition rather than conversion because we think about everything. We have beautiful, beautiful dials that again look original, but they are, to all intents and purposes, EV dials. So that's the process. Somebody either brings us their car, or we can source and sell them that original. And then we go through that process. Now, the great thing about what we do is because we've engineered each model that we do up front and tested it, the time to actually then install all of that technology is actually relatively quick. But clearly the longest process is, how long does it take to restore a vehicle? So that's the key thing. So that will depend very much on its original condition and also what the customer likes. That somebody will like a completely original looking 964. Some other people might want wide body, they might want a few extra tweaks, or they might even want a backdate. So we're open to all of those ideas. But the bit that we do in the middle, because we've spent so much time engineering it properly, bizarrely actually doesn't take too long to complete once we've got a perfect car to work on.
Oh, it's lovely. Are there now the cars can be distributed worldwide, so wherever somebody is today can order a car and ship it. When the car comes in, are there any weird rules about that vehicle? Because I know in Great Britain, some things have changed with Brexit and with importing cars, exporting cars, and that's made things completely befuddling in paperwork in some ways.
It is, Mark. Yeah, I think so. The key thing at the moment, so each market is slightly different. Each country will have slightly different regulations when it comes to not only moving cars around, but also changing the drivetrain. So in the UK and in certain other markets, it's relatively straightforward. It's not overly regulated. And certainly in the United States, it's probably the same in many ways. Let's take some of the companies that are doing similar things to us in California. Once you have the car in country, you can do a lot of this thing. And that's part of our plan, actually. So at the moment, we're building cars solely in the UK. But next year, we will be opening our US factory, and we'll actually be having cars built within country, because we think that's really important to show not only commitment to our customers, but also when it comes to servicing, when it comes to support, we'll have our facility in North America, and hence the relationship, I guess, with Superformance. I think it's going to be really key that we work very, very closely with those guys and make sure that their customers know exactly what they're getting when they sign on the dotted line.
Well, we are kind of a big market over here, a lot of us. So there's opportunities. Do you know where you will be in the U.S. at this point? Or are you still exploring those options?
We're still exploring those options. It's likely to be California initially. That's not to say that we will, we'll necessarily keep all production there, but certainly it looks like the sensible place. We already have a load of friends in California. Some of which are Brits, some of which are not, but there's a great car scene, as you know, in California, and a great love of, let's be honest, Porsche, the Superformance cars, and let's be perfectly honest, EV, especially in LA and other cities in California. So we're very much focused on how do we bring the best quality EV redefined cars to those markets.
Let's talk about a driving inspiration I like to call a key mentor, somebody who was highly influenceable in your life. Influenceable, is that a word? Influencing your life, that kind of gave you motivation and helped you move along when it comes to the car world. Other than a prince and his bride driving away from Windsor Castle, what could be more romantic than that in a beautiful E-Type?
Yeah. Look, it's funny, this question, because I was going to say somebody completely different, but I was very fortunate in the last month, in fact, the last week or so, I've been touring around the south of France and the Southern Alps in one of my cars. And the gentleman that was leading the pack was a guy called Derek Bell, who I'm sure you'll be very familiar with.
Yes, he's been on this show.
Right. So Derek was part of the tour that I was doing. And he's just an inspirational guy. He's fun, he's engaging, he's an unbelievable driver, and his history of motorsport and of F1 is pretty unique, actually. So I've been chatting to him last week, actually, and we were talking about the Porsche, actually, the electric Porsche that we do, and he was very open. He said, look, electric isn't for him at the moment, but he actually loves what we're doing. And I think that he's open-minded enough to think, actually, this is kind of, there's a space for this, and it's an increasing space. He also happened to let me follow him, so I was without a navigator for a couple of days, and on one day last week he said, why don't you follow me? So through the southern Alps of France, him driving his Porsche, me driving a Ferrari, as it happens, was just a great experience. So I'll never forget that. So yeah, he's just a great influence and somebody and I hope he won't mind me saying this, but he's 80 this month, and just his driving skills, his sharpness, his character, his sense of humor is just incredible.
I've had the pleasure of talking to Derek on this show and his son, Justin, and talked to him many times at racetracks, vintage events, of course. And, he's one of those iconic racers that have driven everything, endurance racers. But I find it pretty cool. And I have to chuckle here because we were trying to set up this meeting together, you and I, last week. And you said, well, I'm stuck in France. And I thought, oh, sounds like a boring business trip. I don't think so. Yeah.
No, it wasn't so boring, I have to say. No, we were very fortunate. We had our the Everatti Porsche in the Golf livery was on the closing day of the tour in Saint-Tropez Polo Club amongst some of the world's most beautiful cars. So we were very fortunate to have our car there. So it's not all work, lots of play.
Jolly good show, eh, what? Yes, I love that. Oh my gosh, that sounds like fun. Well, let's take a short break. We come back. I want to talk about a challenge in this industry, particularly with what you're doing. So keep the seatbelts on. We'll be right back. I've discovered Linkage. It's a new quarterly publication and website that covers the automotive market, driving, restoring, collecting, and discovering your passion for motor vehicles. Linkage is about experiences, opinions, and values. Linkage is an actual informed, reasoned opinion based on first-hand experiences. A talented Linkage team covers the automotive world, the people who share your passion and mine, smart, considered, rational, and experienced opinions, ones you can learn from and grow. That includes our passion that drives auctions and the collector car market. So come with me and join us on this journey. And be sure to use the code CARSYEAH when you subscribe, and they'll give you $10 off. Boom! Linkage, geared for the automotive life. Subscribe today at linkagemag.com. I'm honored to say that my charity of choice here at Cars Yeah is Tech Force Foundation. They help young people find an education and career that aligns with their passions. For those who love cars, problem solving, and working with their hands, a career as a professional automotive technician is the perfect fit for a fulfilling life. We're all wired differently, and not every successful career demands a 4-year university. Technical education and the skilled trades matter, and we need qualified, skilled technicians to keep our vehicles rolling. Learn more about how you can support tomorrow's driving force and workforce of technicians at techforce.org, like I do here at Cars Yeah. So let's talk about this, a challenge, an obstacle, something you've had to overcome. I bet there's been a lot of those things with you're endeavoring on something brand new like this and trying to do something that's very unique in the marketplace. I'd love for you to walk us through it, but more importantly, what was the lesson learned so that you could see a positive outcome on the end?
Yeah, look, I think the key thing with this business, with the whole industry that we're in right now, is that changing people's perception of EV is actually quite a challenge. I am and still am deep down a petrol head that's been turned into a motor head. And by that, I mean, I'm not just an EV guy. I still have a couple of combustion engine vehicles, which I love. But we all have to face facts, which is that, I believe, not everybody believes this, I believe climate change is actually real. And I believe we have to, as a world, pull together and be able to actually say that we're doing something different and something towards reducing carbon emissions. And indeed, if I'm honest with you, tailpipe emissions is just as bad. If I look at London, the city that I know and love, and I was there this morning, there are actually there are children dying from tailpipe related emissions in London, which I think is just a terrible, terrible thing. So the key thing is really, I guess, encouraging people to be open-minded about EV and about what we're trying to do. And that's been a load of fun. So I think it's fair to say that we've had guys and girls come and have a look at our cars, maybe at Salon Privé or Concours of Elegance or some of the big shows in the UK. And their initial reaction is, oh no, what have you done? You've ruined the car. How dare you, almost. Then they get in the car and then they hear and feel the sound. And then we take them for a test drive. And I would say 95% of those individuals get it at that point. They really get it. And some of them are now placing orders with us. So I think that's been the real journey, which is, first of all, have belief in your conviction, because, I've been looking at this business now since prior actually to the wedding of Harry and Meghan, but certainly around that sort of period. And of course, in 2016, 2017, when I started thinking about the business, most of my friends were, well, that will never work. That's not, go and find something else to do. But actually, as we've seen, EV is everywhere now. In every newspaper, in every news article, people are talking about the growth of EV. But not everybody wants to drive a brand new, dare I say, box and a digital experience. They want something analog. And that's what we're bringing to the EV market, which is that feel, that sense of occasion when it comes to Pagoda, or the feel of a Porsche, or the outright power of the GT40.
I love it. And I like the way you put that, you wove that comment all together. I've had this discussion with many of my car friends. I'm a more mature, older, I'm not going to say I'm older, more mature gentleman, let's say. I love the combustion engine, the sound, the feel, the vibration, but realize things are changing. And even if you don't agree with the EV world, it's coming, whether you like it or not. It's being, in many cases, I'll say forced upon us, but also there's reasons behind that. Good. And if you don't agree with them, okay, that's fine. But the most interesting conversation I had with somebody was applying it to the horse. Because when the combustion engine came on, and even the early electric vehicles, some of the first vehicles, I think the first was an electric vehicle that Ferdinand Porsche designed, the first electric vehicle before 1900, is the horse went away, even though people were saying it would never go away. But it still exists in a different way, in a different use. And I could see 50 years from now, maybe it's longer, maybe it's sooner, I don't know. I wish I had a crystal ball like that. I would pick better stocks every day, I'm sure. And the combustion engine will eventually be gone, but those vehicles will be used perhaps in special events, historic racing, historic presentation, historic road venues, if they allow it. But the fact that you're keeping that heritage in these old cars, but making them usable in an EV factor is what I find most fascinating and enjoying, because one of the biggest pieces of loving these cars is the visual, but of course the driving experience, and the fact that you incorporate the sound, the vibration, the feel. It's really, really wonderful.
Yeah, and what I haven't, I guess, said so far, Mark, is that everything we do is also technically reversible, because we don't cut the chassis. We try to use the original engine mounts. We've had a couple of customers who said, actually, I'd like to keep the original engine, the original gearbox, and why don't you package it up for me? Why don't you put it in a glass box, and I'll have it in my office, or if the wife will let me, in my lounge, whatever it might be. But but actually that just means that we're just giving these cars a heart transplant, and actually the heart is just somewhere else in your home or in your garage, and if you come to sell the car, you sell everything together. But you're absolutely right. The horse analogy is a really good one. Horses are still around, they're still being used. People play polo, people do eventing, people do all the things that they love to do with horses, but they're not messing up the roads, and they're not, creating other havoc that unfortunately lots of horses can do. And I think that will be the same in this environment. I think the great thing is, with the kind of things that we're doing, you'll be able to see these beautiful cars on the road every day. But actually, as you rightly say, those with combustion engines, maybe that's on closed roads, maybe that's on closed events, they will still be around. They just won't be as available, and therefore those that can do what we will allow them to do, and actually be able to be used in so many more places. So that's the key thing that we're trying to encourage, I guess.
I also love your forward vision and the fact that if things move hydrogen, because hydrogen is that other element out there that seems so viable, but there's challenges with it. But I've had people on the show that they're focusing their business on hydrogen powered vehicles. There's still that option for you guys. So you've got a very wide open vision on what could happen with these vehicles. But the core is classics, enjoying the vehicles, taking them on the road, protecting the environment, all those kinds of things. If you look at your bucket list, are there some other cars you kind of have in the back of your mind for the future that you can tell us about?
There are so many. Many.
I would think so.
And I think that's the interesting thing about why. So we don't necessarily term what we do about classic cars. We call them iconic cars. Now, it happens that the first few cars we're doing are classics, and whether they're recent classics or slightly further back in time. But what's classic to you, what's classic to me, is probably not what's classic or iconic to, let's say, a 25-year-old guy or girl in California that's just made a load of money and wants to express their love of cars in a different way. And what might be iconic to a guy in London is maybe a Volkswagen GTI, let's say. Now, to many people, that's an iconic car, and why not in a few years' time, once battery prices become lower, that potentially is a vehicle that could be looked at from an Everatti perspective, right through to a Lancia Delta Integrale or something of that ilk. So something that's kind of becoming a modern classic, but it's certainly an iconic car. And that's really, there are so many cars that I'd like to look at over the period of the business. And that's what makes it fun, and you get to talk to people who have these wacky ideas. We have somebody in the UK at the moment who would like us to create a super performance, the Daytona Coupe, but with some kind of interesting sounds, and not necessarily a motor sound, but something else. And again, it's just really interesting, and you meet these people, and they have lovely ideas, and they're all passionate. They all share the same passion, which is cars, and increasingly clean air and sustainability, and we love to talk about both, as you can imagine.
Very cool. I'm going to crawl into your skull here, Justin, and be your car psychologist today. If you were manifest as a vehicle, what would Justin be, but more importantly, why?
That is the one question mark that I have absolutely no idea how to answer, but I'll give it a try.
Okay.
So I think I would be probably something like a Bentley. Maybe a Mulsanne, so something that is slightly overweight, but sporty, something that people can rely on and hopefully can kind of go into any environment. So something like that. I love those vehicles with passion, and something like that has that sense of occasion, but it's an honest British brand, and something that I think. I'm proud to have had a few in my time, and certainly as Bentleys anyway, and they just evoke that quality, reliability, and I guess Britishness that is something that I'm still proud to be.
Well, of course. Dare I say, would you be an EV?
I would, but I would probably say that. I would want to make sure that it was as similar to drive as the original in terms of performance, in terms of you don't need to almost upgrade those cars. They were already performant enough. They were designed so well. So actually an EV, but with all the similar traits that you get in the original.
Now, it sounds like you've had some pretty cool special cars in your life. Is there one that stands out you could share?
So the one, weirdly, that I always talk about, and this is something that I was very fortunate when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, my father and I used to kind of renovate to a very low level, if I'm honest, but renovate some old French cars. And that was really good fun. It got me kind of a view on engineering. I'm not going to say I'm an engineer, but a view on engineering. And I was fortunate enough to have a Renault 5 Gordini. And I don't know if you know what one of those is. I'm sure you do. But it was just a sporty little Renault 5. I loved some of the details. I loved the wheels. I loved everything about it. So, that was just a vehicle. It's not super fast by any standards today. It's tiny. It's all the things that probably people wouldn't necessarily view as iconic today. But I love that vehicle. Kind
of a GT, Golf, kind of GTI, maybe Golf kind of esque car, if you will.
That's exactly right.
But with its French eclecticness, its uniqueness that the French do with their vehicles.
That's right. It's really, really light. Didn't need a lot of power because it was so light, and load of fun. You could certainly chuck it about and enjoy the curves, enjoy the bends, as it were. So a lot of fun.
Sounds cool. Now, how about a great book? Is there a book you'd like to share with our listeners today that you've really enjoyed?
Yeah, do you know, it's one that I haven't even got through fully yet, but it's the Nike story.
Okay.
So Shoe Dog. Yeah, I'm kind of most of the way through it, and I'm just enjoying the story again of somebody who really in the early days of that business was battling so many things were against them, and let's be honest, pull through and have been hugely successful. But I think also as a business, that concept of building a brand that people love, that people trust, and actually how you build that underneath, it's almost like a swan. You see that beautiful swan going along the river, but underneath, it's paddling away, and that's a really good business analogy for me as well.
Yeah, people look at a brand like that, or Apple, let's pick another big one, and they think, oh, they just came out of the box and they were super successful, and there was so much turmoil. I use Apple because, of course, Steve Jobs was basically fired out of his own business. Imagine that. You work passion and all of that, and all of a sudden the board goes, I don't think we need you anymore, buddy. Goodbye. Wait,
absolutely
what?
Right.
This is my company. Not really, not anymore.
Yeah.
So Shoe Dog is one of those amazing stories I think every business person, and especially young people who are very entrepreneurial and coming out and trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives, should read, because there's an immense amount of information there. I'm going to let you go on the ultimate drive today. Now, it sounds like you just went on one of those. I mean, chasing Derek Bell through the French mountainside and the countryside. Wow, that sounds like fun. I'm gonna come over there and hang out with you for a while. If you could pick well, there you go. If you could pick any vehicle to be in with anybody, living or deceased, and be anywhere, maybe just for today or tomorrow, what would that ultimate drive look like for you?
This is really interesting. So I'm going to be fairly boring on this one. I actually,
okay.
I would actually go with my beautiful wife, and I would probably take either an Everatti Porsche or the Pagoda, but it would be on the north coast of Scotland. So on a beautiful day, I'm sure there's some lovely roads. There's some famous runs in that area. We got married at a place called Dundas Castle in Scotland.
Wow.
In Edinburgh, and on the right day, on the right roads in northern Scotland, it's just stunning. You could be anywhere in the world. They're quiet. They're beautiful scenery, and that's probably what I would do. It's I guess I could probably pick anybody in the world, but that would be a load of fun.
I had a guest on a few weeks ago that picked that same part of the world to be in a special Ferrari on. Yeah, with and I'm trying to remember who he said he was with, but it was a famous race car driver. Oh, Graham Hill.
Ah, wow. Okay.
Somebody who was very famous, but is somewhat understated, I think, in some ways, maybe because of his gentlemanliness and the kind of person he was. He wasn't really loud, flamboyant, and, obtuse, but he was wonderful driver, wonderful gentleman. And so it's funny that you mentioned the same place up on the North Coast in Scotland, and that, that sounds like fun. My son got to be up there with a girlfriend of his and her mother, and travel with them and drive those roads. And he told me, Dad, you love driving, you love roads. I found some amazing roads we got to go over there and do. So that's kind of a bucket list for us. You've taken us on a wonderful drive today, and I'm so excited about your business. I'm so happy that we were able to connect. Before I let you go, could you share maybe a parting word of wisdom, a success quote, or a mantra you might have?
I think the key thing for me is keep trying. When you believe you have a great idea and you believe that you're on the right track, even if nobody else does, frankly, always keep going, because I think, in life, you only get one of them, I believe, and, have fun, follow your dreams. And I've been very fortunate. I had a background in technology. I have a real passion for cars. And I've managed to bring those two together. And, I find myself pinching myself every day that I'm in that position. It's a great place to be. So, and that was, a dream of mine. And I'm really fortunate to be living it. And, follow your passion, because if your work can be your passion, then you don't really feel like it's work. And I think that's really important too.
Well, absolutely. You are the epitome of what Cars Yeah is all about, inspiring automotive enthusiasts. And of course, to quote a fellow Brit, Sir Winston Churchill, never ever give up. Keep trying, right? So
absolutely right.
There you go. How can people learn more about Everatti?
So obviously, please visit Everatti.com. Everatti Cars on Instagram is also a great source of information. And we're increasing our presence on both YouTube and a variety of other media. But if you just do a search for us, you'll find a load of great images, you'll find a load of great videos. We will shortly be in a British Motoring Magazine feature as well that people will no doubt know about. So Top Gear will be doing some bits on us shortly. So yeah, just have a look, and please come and find us when we're in North America, or indeed if you happen to be in the UK, come and have a drive.
Oh, absolutely. Everatti, Everratti. Pour yourself a tall drink. You're going to be there a while, enjoying what they're doing here. I want to do a shout out and a thank you to Ben Lewis, Influence Associates, who connected us, and of course your own Barnett Fletcher. So he was kind to help get you and I together today and track you down from being up in the mountains there in France, enjoying your cars and so forth. Justin, thanks for being so generous today with your time and expertise. I'm so excited with what you're doing. Can't wait to follow more and more excitement here. One of these days, I'm going to get to jump in one of your vehicles and take it for a drive, and I think I'm going to be sold. Until you and I talk again, my friend, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.